Hello and welcome to another episode of Film Freaks with a Z, the podcast all about movies. Each episode is about a particular movie, and we'll introduce that one in a little bit. But first, I need to invite you, yes, you, the listener, to join in on our fan vote that happens during Tay's episode. So, next episode, the fan vote will happen, but we're always looking for more fan recommendations. So, if you want to comment on the latest episode of Film Freaks with a Z on YouTube, join my Discord, the Ferret Nation Discord, and suggest a movie in the movie stuff section. Or you can send us an email at ff.filmfreakswithaz at the end at gmail.com. Those are all different ways that you can get your movie onto the list. New movies take priority over older ones, so if you get your movie in now, guess what? It'll be on the next episode, possibly, probably. But yeah, make sure you do all that. We'd love to have more recommendations. Yeah, before we introduce the movie, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. I am Fantastic Mr. Ferret, and I'm here with
Badger Waffles.
Cussin Tay.
And I'm Topos Bunsen Bean.
Tay messed up. It's on
Tay.
Tay. It's on Tay.
It is.
Tay was supposed to introduce.
I was just about to.
There was a long pause there.
Yeah.
There was a long pause there.
There was a long pause because I forgot for a split second. Then I was like, "Oh yeah, what do I say? What do I say?"
It's like Mr. Fantastic Mr. Fox's feet. The pause was too long.
It's okay. Everyone forgot already, so go ahead, restart.
Yeah, Tay.
So,
Topos. Let's just have Topos introduce himself since Tay is fumbling this.
Yeah, it happens.
We love you, Tay.
I'm Topos Bunsen Bean. That's it. I could do the whole song, but we're gonna sing the whole song several times during the episode anyway. So,
yeah. Topos is a good friend of mine. Topos usually streams with me. If you ever check out my streams, you'll probably see Topos there.
I'm a good friend.
You're a great friend. Some would say maybe a best friend.
Ooh.
Am I a fantastic friend?
You're a fantastic friend.
We haven't yet introduced the movie, and we should probably.
No, we said
do
fantastic like 8 times.
No, we did, yeah.
I mean, if they don't know by our names.
Yeah, before we introduce the movie, though, we are down one player today, and that would be Callus. Something came up. He had to skip out on the recording, but that's just par for the course on most guest appearances on the podcast.
Yeah.
So he'll give his opinion on the movie and stuff like that in the next episode.
For the record, his name also works with Callus Bunsen Bean.
Yeah, it does.
There you go.
I was to say,
He missed
what
out.
would you
He
think?
missed out on that one.
What would have been his name? Do you think? What would he have chosen?
Boy, his mind works in such a different way than ours. So
It
Yes.
does. It really does.
it'd probably have something with blue in there.
Yep.
All right.
Greedy, go ahead and introduce the movie for us.
So, if you haven't picked it up yet, the movie I recommended from last week from our Wes Anderson kick is fantastic, Mr. Fox. It's from 2009. Some of the context of the movie is an unburning fox cannot resist returning to his farm, regretting ways, and then must help his community survivors the farm's retaliation. Some of the stars, they're all voice actors, of course. George Clooney, Meryl Streep, Bill Murray, Wes Anderson is also in it, Jason Schwartzman, William Dafoe, Owen Wilson, Karen Duffy, and a lot of others. And yeah, I think I got everything.
You sure did.
Yeah. So our idea was to have our guest start off with the talking point. So take it away.
Well, before the movie even started, I watched this movie with Tay, and before the movie even started, I asked Tay what he thought the movie would be about, and his predictions were basically, so it's a Wes Anderson movie, which means that there's going to be an upbeat character who's disenfranchised with life and who's suffering from ennui. The movie is not going to provide a a massive resolution to this, but there will be some sort of catharsis in the end. Unfortunately, Tay got everything about that wrong. There's no upbeat characters, no disenfranchisement with life, no, hang on. No, he did.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, you
no,
got it
yeah,
right.
I'm seeing it now. Yeah, all of it. All of that. Which is it's a Wes Anderson thing, and I sometimes I just want to I want to put my hands on either side of Wes Anderson's face and bring his head close to mine and say, look deep into his eyes and say, look, my dude, stop making movies and go talk to a therapist, please. It's not that bad.
Yeah, going based off of what you're saying, like just like based off of the title of the description of the movie, I was thinking, this fox was gonna raid, farmers, camps and all that, and yeah, he does do that for a hot second, but I wasn't expecting them being underground 90% of the movie.
He's a fox. Foxes live in holes. The
Yeah.
movie goes to great pains to talk about that.
So what's our talking point there, Topos? What are we talking about?
Well, putting in
Just
this
the ennui.
well, putting this in the context of other Wes Anderson movies, I think that this is a movie that is a bit of a departure. It is kind of different from a lot of his other stuff.
Yeah.
It's less focused on like a meta narrative and more focused on. Man, I'm trying to figure out a way to make this sound ever so slightly less pretentious than it does, but we are four dudes talking about a Wes Anderson movie on a podcast, which let me check here really quick. Yes, no, this has definitely been done before. The thing is I think that this movie is a pastiche. It's a picture. It's not an actual story in the sense of like some sort of grand epic narrative where Mr. Fox goes through some sort of life-changing journey and is a different, more developed person at the end. It's more along the lines of like, hey, here's a guy and his relationships, and some of it's kind of fucked up, but can I say fuck?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
all right. Some of it's kind of fucked up, but also some of it kind of makes you think, doesn't it? And it's in that context, it is really well done, and it's something that Wes Anderson does a lot, but not often to this degree or in this way. Is that a jumping off point for a talking point, or is that just a
No. I mean,
summation?
this is my only second Wes Anderson movie. The first one was the Grand Budapest Hotel, which we watched last week. But yeah, this I can tell just watching the second movie is something. Not it's different, and it's different, but it's very, very good. And the motion picture, I loved it. It was very smooth, and everything was just yeah. There was a few rough edges here and there, but everything seemed very well done, and everything was very well done.
Waffles, I know that you said a motion picture, but what I heard was emotion picture, and I was like, yes, that's exactly what this is. It's an emotion picture, a picture of this dork's emotions. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously I'm a pretty big fan of Wes Anderson myself too, and even though it is a bit of a departure from what he normally does with his movies, if I went into this not knowing that Wes Anderson directed it, I could still tell that it was at least inspired by him, because a lot of the a lot of the cinematography and the placement of the camera, quote unquote, in the shots really does remind me a lot of other movies that he's done in the past. So it still has that Wes Anderson flair while still being something pretty unique in his catalog.
For sure. I mean, just doing stop motion. This was his first stop motion movie.
Yes.
That gives it a whole new feel. And I really liked the animation and just like how since most of the characters obviously have fur, like even when they're like standing still, you can tell someone like as they were moving things, just like the fur would change, and there was always motion, even when things were standing still.
One of the things about the stop motion in particular that I think that so in a lot of Wes Anderson movies, one of the
They're stop
striking things
motion.
about them. Well, in a lot of Wes Anderson movies in general, one of the striking things about
Yeah.
them is his palette and his use of texture, and that like the fact that he got to control all of it in the stop motion means that like every single scene, I was like, I can 100% feel those corduroy pants like that character is wearing. I
Right.
absolutely get that sort of raggedy coarse shirt looking thing. Like I can feel the dirt between my toes. I don't know. It was a very textural movie. It was good.
Yeah, we talked about his color palette and all that in the Grand Budapest Hotel, and how well he does with lighting and all that, and it still shows in this one. I'm excited to see more movies by him and compare his color palette and all that and his texture.
And I
Yeah,
did say
color,
this was
color,
his
and music really played a huge role in this one in particular. Like, even though Grand Budapest had really good music too, but I felt like the music more so, since they kind of use like actual like band recorded songs, and the music definitely lends more to this movie than maybe the Grand Budapest Hotel.
That's interesting, Yemmy, because I found some of the needle drops on this one to be fucking bizarre. Like, for the most part, you've got the Bogus Bunsen Bean refrain, and then you've got Petey's number, which is absolutely cool. But, for example, the movie ends with there she goes with the brand new lover, like that one. And I'm like, what? Why? What does that have to do with... And then the refrain comes in, which is like dance all night, and I'm like, okay, fine, but that's a really literal way of doing it. Which you could say about all the songs in this piece is that they were so literal. I don't know. The music was a bit of a sticking point for me. So maybe I missed something there.
Yeah, I was just watching and enjoying it. I wasn't trying to think too hard on it. The main thing that I liked was just like, it was much different music than you would normally hear in, like, because you watch like any other popular movie in 2009, and you're hearing the freaking Black Eyed Peas and
And
All
the
Star,
Wallflowers. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah,
the
and
Wallflowers.
instead of getting those generic songs that you hear over and over again, I mean, it was all the songs were completely different. Like, I had never, I mean, before I'd watched the movie again, I had forgotten that they even existed for most part. So that was more of why I liked the music, because it's like it was different. It was a little bit folksy. It was music that I wouldn't normally listen to, and I think I think the music itself, just the genre itself, fit the tone that the movie was going for, and how it looked as well. Like the look of the movie also was fed in with the music.
Okay. I will absolutely 100% agree that the genre was spot on. You're right. I am probably digging a little bit too deep on like it was a movie about vibes, and that's a lot of times that's what Wes Anderson's all about. I think Tay, you were gonna say something about the music.
Oh no, I was gonna say, because I said this was his first motion picture, but I should say first or first not motion picture, first animated picture, but I should say first full length animated, because all his other movies have small little animated segments,
Yeah, there are like little
stop
miniatures and stuff that
motion.
they
Yeah.
use.
Yep. So,
But
but for the
I mean,
music, oh, sorry,
I see where Topaz is coming from. Topos. Topos?
Yeah,
Um,
Topos. Yeah.
I see where you're coming from. Like, if I was to listen to, like, you were actually saying the lyrics, and like I wasn't really listening to the lyrics at the end of the song. So it is, like, thinking about it now, it is a little bit bizarre, obviously. But like I said, I was mostly just listening to the genre. I wasn't really listening to what was being said in the song.
yeah, same
Gives you a
same
focus
here.
on movie.
And you know what? I think that's not just valid, but also probably more correct, because this is not really a movie that wants
It
to
wants
be
the
analyzed.
vibes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
this is a movie about the vibes, and like picking the movie apart piece by piece. You're gonna run into okay, right at the very beginning. There's a part. There's a what's it called when they throw text up on the screen? Shoot.
Subtitles or no?
No.
Oh, just
I see
the
what
the
you're saying,
text.
Yeah. The text says 12 years later.
Oh,
further
I see.
on,
I see what you're
yeah, further on in the movie, they start making really interesting distinctions between fox years and human years. But
They
like the
did that in
very
the first two.
first,
No, the
Yeah,
first one said 12
the
years
first one said
later, then
yeah. In Fox years, it
or it
said
was
underneath it.
3, yeah, it was like 3 years, 12 years in Fox years or something like that.
really, man,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I 100% missed it. Okay,
Yeah.
never mind. My point. I was building towards a point there. I'm gonna cede the floor in shame.
Yeah, no, they always were focusing on. Like there was one time where they didn't like mention the Fox years, which was like weird to me. I was like, oh, but how long is this in Fox years?
But I think that's part of it, where it's like it's not a movie that's obsessed with being really, really tight in any way, shape, or form. The whole thing is loose. The dialogue is loose. The cadence is loose. The plot is loose. Like, and that's fine. That's okay. It means that nitpicky folks like me will have to sit back and try and feel the vibes a little bit harder. But that's one of the things that make this movie great, I think.
I'm getting a little bit of a weird drop in your audio every so often. Is everyone else hearing that?
I haven't noticed.
I was. Yeah.
Maybe it's my headset.
Yeah. When I asked earlier about it, I found it was my earpieces or whatever were making the audio noises.
My microphone breaks other people's headphones, apparently.
Yeah, it was just weird. He was dropping out every so often for me. I didn't know if anyone else was hearing that.
I might have been peaking. Okay. You
it might have just been me. Because I was watching the wavelength, and every so often it would drop as well on the wavelength. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I could always pull out my other headset if it's that a problem.
Well, we might want to run a quick check on the recording just to make sure. I don't know if that's possible or if that's too much work.
Yeah, we can pause the pod. Well, if I pause, I don't think it allows me to download the audio.
We can also just run it. It's fine. I don't know.
I'll say, is this all just going to make it in because you're going to forget it's here?
Probably. It'll all make it anyway.
If it's all in, hello.
Well, I'll try and listen to when other people are talking and see if it does this, if it's doing the same thing, because it could be my headset. We'll let it ride for now, and I'll listen closely when other people are talking and see if it does the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anyways, Tay, you have something?
No, I didn't have anything. I was trying to think of something, but I was like, well, where were we? What did we leave off on?
The way that this movie doesn't really stand up to deep scrutiny, or rather is not built for deep scrutiny, I think. Does anybody else have examples of how it's a movie about vibes more than specifically analyzable plot points and stuff?
I think one of the things you can point to is how there are some shots that are kind of a little bit more, I don't want to say realistic, but they're a little bit more purposeful than others, and it just kind of is a little bit jarring. They zoom in on the possum's eyes every so often when things are happening, and it's kind of a little bit of a slapstick moment, which always made me laugh, especially when eventually Mr. Fox was the one who was dazed and confused. So I think that kind of points to it being a bit more of a laid back kind of, just a vibe kind of movie. You get those moments that kind of remind you of the first few seasons of SpongeBob, when they used to do that too, where they would make a joke and then they would zoom in and have a photo, realistic drawing of whatever was happening. I kind of got the same vibes here from that.
Huh.
Yeah, I can see that.
Kylie is absolutely hands down my favorite character. Kylie Possum.
He is the best. I agree with that.
Well, Kylie, the zoom in on the eyes, the kind of is Kylie really all there or is he not, is a fascinating contradiction, because when it comes right down to it, of all the characters in the movie, Kylie is perhaps the wisest one. He's the one who knows when to stop, even if he doesn't always stop there because somebody else pushes him. He's the one who seems like most satisfied in his life. He's not trying to get anybody's approval at more or less any point in time. He's trying to engage with the other characters in a sort of genuine way that I find really charming.
Yeah, he also seems to have like
Yeah.
some sort of sixth sense too. At the end of the movie when Mr. Fox is like telling everyone like their power, like their special abilities or whatever you want to say. He didn't have anything for the possum, but like anytime during the movie when something was like creeping up on them, like the dog with rabies, and also the wolf at the end, like he was always the first one to notice, and then everyone else would notice. So I feel like he kind of also had like this sixth sense about him.
Yeah.
Oh,
Except for the one time he forgot the blueberries.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well,
Yeah.
You wrote
Well,
it in your hand.
that's foreplanning. That's very different from awareness, Tay.
Yeah, true.
Kylie lives in the moment. You can't. And he has really good credit. We can't forget that.
yes.
He does have really good credit.
I guess that kind of leads us to just like the humor in the movie. I found myself laughing throughout the entire thing. But I also found myself getting kind of emotional at times too. Like it really, like the characters and how the voice acting was done. You really felt for the characters and stuff like that. So I did find
Mhm.
myself getting a little emotional at times, but also I found myself also laughing throughout the entire thing.
Now, did you feel bad for Mr. Fox, or were you kind of like, "Fuck you, Mr. Fox"? What are your
Why
guys'
w-
opinions?
I mean, I'm not going to say fuck you, Mr. Fox. I mean, obviously he's a bit of a flawed character, as we all are. And he got, because he obviously wasn't satisfied with his writing career, but he
Yeah.
also didn't seem to be satisfied with family life either. And I think that the growth of his character is realizing that he can put his passion into his family instead of trying to force passion onto writing or having this passion for stealing things from the humans. I think that's a big part of his character growth is he learns to love his family more than he loves burglary,
Yeah,
essentially.
stealing and all that. Yeah, I agree with
So
that.
I was rooting for him the entire time. To go back to your question.
I was rooting for him too. I don't. Yemmy, I hope this isn't a thing. I disagree with your assessment of the growth of Mr. Fox.
That's fine. Yeah,
No,
we
okay,
like
so-
some contradictory stuff here.
Yeah,
Doesn't
so
happen often.
I didn't see him grow. I like the thing is that he did at the end he might engage slightly better with Ash, but it's only because Ash is his son. But it's only because Ash demonstrated some sort of athletic ability, right? So Fox didn't actually like, and this goes back to the pastiche versus narrative kind of thing, where in a narrative it is you would expect a character to grow. This is just a snapshot of him, and I think that's one of the things that makes me feel so much about it. You're right that he's a flawed character. He stays flawed the entire time. Circumstance gives a kind of like wraps it all up for him, but he's better at the end because of luck, not because of any introspection or growth that he goes through. At least in my view of what happened.
So you don't see the heartfelt moment between him and his wife to be a character changing moment.
No,
Yeah,
because he
when-
had a heartfelt moment right at the start. He had one at the start. He had a couple in the middle, and then he had one at the end. They're all heartfelt moments. The problem was never that he didn't have that he didn't love his family. The problems were that he like couldn't really reconcile. Like the problem was that he wanted to do something that he wasn't allowed to do, and he then did that thing, and consequences happened that affected everybody. But at the end of it, he's like, well, I guess we're all just wild animals. I would 100% do that thing again, even knowing that there are consequences, which is not a great growth arc. You know? Does that. I see what you're saying about, like, from a certain light, it does absolutely look like he is in a different place at the end of the movie. My argument, though, would be that he's not in a different place because he grew. He's in a different place because of the events that transpired.
So you don't think that him bringing the entire family on his little burglary trip, that doesn't show that he grew at all, because before it was just him or just him and Kylie, but now he's bringing the entire family to take out the supermarket.
Well, it was never just him. It was him and Felicity, his wife, or it was him and Kylie, or it was him and Kylie and Christopherson. He finally lets Ash come along, but only after Ash has like demonstrated some sort of like desire and willingness to go in a way that Mr. Fox finds acceptable. And the supermarket thing was like, I guess it technically in some ways a heist, but I don't really see that as growth on his part, because like, I don't know, maybe you're right. Maybe he was finding it more acceptable to bring his family along. But to me it was just like, oh, this is how we're getting dinner now because I'm a wild animal and I've accepted that in a way. You know?
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. Like, I think, you're saying, yeah, he kind of, since they're living underground, he's the events that he's kind of like, playing it off. But I also see the point too where Yummy's saying. But I also want to go back to your comment where you say it's the same, like he did the same throughout the beginning of the movie, the middle. I think the beginning was kind of more of a promise and a heartfelt moment, whereas like the rain where they're in the rainfall area they were talking. I think that's more heartfelt than like the beginning, unless you're talking about a different spot. But
Well, I was I mean, I was referencing the part where he was in the sewer and the rain was falling down. He was going to go sacrifice himself to save everyone.
yeah,
I mean,
that
obviously
that definitely was
obviously
the
the
most heartfelt
first,
part.
the scene where they're in the cage, like obviously that's like,
A promise
he's
or
making a
something.
promise, and he, the wife wants him to change, but he doesn't want to change, right? But at the end of the movie, now he wants to be different. He wants to be there for his family, and I do see that there is, I see that as character growth. I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
I agree. It does feel like some character growth there. Not much, but there's some.
And I mean, obviously, Ash, he didn't really like. I understand, like it's kind of like the How to Train Your Dragon problem, where the father only accepts the son after he shows that he's capable of doing something, right? I see it as I see it as being a little bit different in this case, but I do see the parallels between that.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. I am inclined to be less charitable to Mr. Fox, partly because I don't know, I'm not a tremendously charitable person in the first place, but also because I really, really like Mr. Fox a as a dick, as an unchanging, like irresponsible, like dork. And it's silly because there were 12 whole years where Mr. Fox didn't steal anything, right? We don't get to see that. We get to see his reversion. So maybe there's something to be said about that though, where like but in the 12 years he was abiding by Felicity's wishes, but not by like his own desire. And at the end of it, he finds a way to like to compromise or to like bring the whole thing together so that he is able to be himself and also be there for his family. I can see that.
Yeah, and also don't forget, it was only 3 years. It was 12 Fox years, though.
12. That's very true. Yeah. It is a funny movie though.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that can't like sometimes the humor like busts through in a way where you expect it to be like you expect this is the moment where Mr. Fox learns his lesson, and then it's like, no, this is a really, really funny moment instead. And it's like, okay, that's entirely fair.
Yeah, and we also said that a lot to from our last Wes Anderson movie is like they had serious scenes, and that the same serious scene is they're calling each other losers or something. It's just like random. You're like, oh, okay, wasn't expecting that. Same thing with this movie.
Well, yeah, there was that whole scene where he was trying to get a down payment on the tree or whatever, and it's pretty serious throughout the entire thing. And then all of a sudden, he's like, "I'm what did Badger say? Bill Murray say?
Are you
I'm
cussing at
cussing you
me?
or something like that."
Are you cussing at me?
Yeah, and then then Fox is like, "Oh, I'm cussing at you," and then they just start going wild, right? Like it's so out. It was kind of out of nowhere for the first time, and I
Yeah.
was just bursting out laughing because it's just like such an absurd thing, you know?
Just go around the desk and then sit back down. Okay.
I think that moment, as funny as it was, also like cut to one of the very core things of the film, which is that like these are wild animals, right? Like,
Right.
and sometimes the veneer comes off, sometimes the mask slips, and when it does, you get a badger and a fox hissing and scratching at each other.
I also like this is kind of change topic, but just the animal sizes just varied so much throughout the whole movie. Like the animal, like just the scenery around them is more what changes. Like the animals were the same size, but suddenly like, oh, you're the size of a door almost. Oh, you're tiny and you can fit through a sewer pipe.
This is the sizes in particular were one of the things that indicated to me early on, hey, this movie is abstracted.
Yeah.
It's his vibes.
For sure.
Don't try to track how big Mr. Fox is. We're never going to put him in a scene with Bogus Bunce and or Bean. You don't have to worry about that, right? Like Mr. Fox is just the size that Mr. Fox is, and that's how it is.
Yeah. No, I agree. I just thought it was funny.
It was,
something.
and like the size jokes that are in there are really really great. Like how big is the apple tart? You know.
Yeah, like and also like the boxes at the end of the movie that were like it's like is that supposed to be like a normal sized box or obviously it's like a really small box to us humans, but it's a normal sized box to Mr. Fox. Interesting. I more so noticed that once the humans started like interacting with them, like when they were in the house with the lady with cataracts and in the cellar with the apple cider and stuff. That's when I noticed like, okay, so the size of the characters don't really matter in like they matter
Yeah.
scene to scene, not like overarching.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fact that there's a rat the size of a fox it's just wild.
Oh man, the rat is my second favorite character.
That's William Dafoe in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, and
Who's
that
our
was probably it's like
favorite
once you realize it's William Dafoe, you go, oh, he's gonna die. William
Yeah,
Dafoe
okay.
always dies in a Wes Anderson movie.
Real quick,
Except
Isn't
for
it-
French Dispatch.
isn't it Willem?
Okay. Willem, yeah, it is
He
Willem.
doesn't. There's no I in the. Okay, all right. I'm just. I was like, are we talking about the same?
On this podcast, we can say whatever we want, and if we
All
want
right.
to mispronounce their names, we can do that.
West Anderson is my favorite director.
no one corrected us last episode, so
Ah.
we mentioned William Dafoe a lot of times, so I just assumed it was William.
Okay, hang on. I'm gonna.
I'm learning new things here. It's Willem.
I'm getting to that
It
YouTube
is
video real
Willem.
quick, and then how could you jerks get my boy Willem's name so wrong so many times?
That
I think
episode's
I've
not
heard
even
it
out
wrong.
yet.
I've heard it wrong in so many different places. It kind of sticks for a little, it kind of
Yeah.
sticks in your brain.
It does.
Just like
it really
when,
does.
well, just like with, the two towers. We were talking about the two towers, and I called Grima Wormtongue Gimeth Wormtongue, and it was just something that I had always said because that's how I heard it once, and that's how
Yeah.
I always said it after that.
Gimeth Wormtongue is a better name. I mean, I'm down to give notes
Thank
to J.R.R.
you.
Tolkien here. Gimeth
Yeah.
Wormtongue, hell yeah.
Thank
Definitely
you.
better. It sounds more like a name than Grima.
Speaking of,
Grima.
speaking of names, the names in this movie are good. All of the, I think that some of it comes from Roald Dahl himself, right? Bogus Bunsen Bean are definitely Roald Dahl's invention, but all of the names are like first name, human name, last name, just the animal that they are,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. It just
Felicity
works.
Fox.
It makes everything easy.
And difficult in some ways.
What was Mr. Fox's first name? Was it just Fantastic or?
No, I think it was Mister.
Okay, yeah.
Because on the awards for his skill at the
FF.
ball game, yeah, it's
Yeah.
Mhm.
FMF, I think.
Hmm.
So maybe I don't know. Maybe that's a
Fantastic
nickname
Mr. Fox.
he acquired in high school and it
Yeah.
stuck,
Yeah.
or in school, not high school, but school in general.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm going to say it's Felix.
Because
That-
in the movie they're like quote unquote fantastic, Mr. Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah. That does come into play quite a bit because like Mr. Fox taken in the context of who he is and what he is fantastic. He's extremely good at stealing, like he's a genius at stealing chickens and pheasants and cider. But is he fantastic? Like, would any of you call Mr. Fox fantastic after watching the movie?
I mean, no, I wouldn't. But you have to remember, he got the nickname for playing sports ball.
It was Whackbat, but yes.
Well, yeah, that's what, whatever. It's a sports ball game.
There's no ball in it whatsoever.
That's a
It's
pine cone. It's close enough to a ball. Either way, that's where he got the nickname.
Why aren't you respecting the ancient institution of Whackbat?
Whackbat is a great sport. I want to try it. But yeah, that's where he supposedly got the nickname Fantastic. So in that regard, sure, I guess he could be fantastic. As a person, no, he's not very fantastic. He's a dick. A lovable dick.
That just wraps around to the first thing that Topos said, which was, what do you expect going into this movie called Fantastic Mr. Fox? When I originally watched this back in, I don't know, 2010 or 2011 or whenever I watched it originally, I didn't watch it in theaters. I went into it thinking that, it's a fun little stop motion movie, Bill Murray and you got George Clooney, and I was not expecting the heists and I was expecting just like a kind of like a kids movie. Essentially, it was before I really knew who Wes Anderson was. So my expectations going into it when I was younger were much different than when I was going into it now on a rewatch.
Yeah. Well, this was my first time watching it.
Yeah, my first time as well.
I went in thinking, why is this guy fantastic? Let's see if he is.
Yeah, let's see why he's fantastic, right? That's also one of those things at the beginning where you're like, okay, when does he become fantastic? I guess
he starts fantastic, or he never is fantastic, and I think that's fantastic about the film is that like viewed one way, he is never fantastic. Viewed another way, like there's nowhere for him to go because he was always fantastic. Like, does that make sense? Is that track? I'm trying to.
It tracks. I get you.
Yeah, it tracks. It tracks.
I think that his view of himself is also a really interesting thing to look at. Does he think he's fantastic?
Oh, he definitely does.
I don't know. There's a moment where I think he's talking to Kylie where he's like, it is one of those moments where he's kind of like down in the dumps, like the sewer rainfall scene around there where he's like, oh, maybe he's talking to Felicity, where he's like, I just get this urge to make it so that everybody around me thinks that I'm some sort of fantastic Mr. Fox, which is when you go, hey, they said the name of the movie. He's like, it's a compulsion of some kind where I go too far to try and make everybody think that I'm fantastic. And I was like, that is introspective in one direction, but in another direction, Mr. Fox, that's not your problem. That is not. That is, if you want to address something about yourself, like being worried about the way other people think of you, is not really something that is going to be tremendously productive and making you live a better and happier life. Like, you're missing the entire point here, Mr. Fox. But I might have been once again uncharitable in that scene to this character that I really like.
I mean, obviously, it is kind of a flaw that he is so concerned about what other people think, which also might be why. I mean, obviously, it is why that he takes over like the toast from Mr. Badger,
That
in
was
the
a
middle of
great
that.
moment.
He takes that over because he's like, well, I need to show people that I am the one who did this because I want them. Well, maybe he doesn't want them to look up to him, but he wants them to be, think highly of him, essentially. So, and also like it's kind of meta that they call the movie Fantastic Mr. Fox, and throughout the movie you're guessing as to why he's so fantastic, right? Maybe that's why they called it Fantastic Mr. Fox in the first place, was to kind of make you get those expectations and realize, okay, maybe there's a little bit something else going on here. Maybe he's not so fantastic like we think he is, and I think maybe that's also like putting you in the mindset of the animals around him, making you who maybe think he's fantastic, but you when you actually see who he is in this movie, you go, oh well, I guess he's not that fantastic. He's definitely flawed, and he's putting on a show for the animals around him, kind of thing. Which watching the movie, I kind of feel you're kind of in the same place as the animals are, who perceive him as being fantastic.
Yemmy, I'm only breaking in here because you may get YouTube comments about this. The film is called Fantastic Mr. Fox because it's an adaptation of a book by Roald Dahl called Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Right, but you could also go into the book, reading the book, going, "Why is this fox fantastic?"
Oh,
I mean,
you cannot. No. It's that one is a children's book where Fantastic Mr. Fox is taken exactly at face value. Where it's I love the book too, by the way, but it is a straight up, straight down. These are the antics of this really incredible animal, which makes it so that the fact that there is so much ambiguity in the movie itself. To your point, the fact that is flipped is a really, really Wes Anderson thing to do. And I do think that you're very astute in like pointing out that, like, going into that movie thinking that you're going to get a straight up, straight down, these are the antics of a Fantastic Mr. Fox, and then getting presented with this flawed kind of dickbag ambiguous character, I think is phenomenal.
So my point still stands, though. You go into the movie expecting Fantastic Mr. Fox, but you don't get Fantastic Mr. Fox. So, me, who's a person who's never read the book, and obviously I knew that it was based on a book, but, I never read the book. I could see it as I'm going into this going with the expectation that this guy is fantastic, kind of like how the animals view him. And I can say, okay, the real world is a bit different from this world that's been built up around him, essentially.
Yeah. I agree. I do agree. Where it's like, I think that I really like this one better than the sequels. I don't remember ever seeing 2 or 3, but Fantastic Four just wasn't very good.
I thought that was fan four stick. Because the four's in the middle of the words. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the latest version.
Right. And then there's the Fantastic and the Furious, and then that's a whole other thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the movie kind of the sequels kind of fall off after the first one. Let's be honest.
Yeah. They weren't even stop motion. I mean, come on.
They weren't?
And why did they
recast some of them looked like it.
Why did they recast Mr. Fox as Dwayne Johnson? Like, what the heck?
Yeah. Okay, you say that, but I would 100% watch this movie with Dwayne Johnson replacing all of
all the characters'
lines.
I don't know, like
no, all of them. It's just Dwayne Johnson doing all the voices.
Except for Kylie, who is played by Triple X. Fuck, what's his name?
Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel.
Yeah, Vin Diesel. Yemmy, are you doing this on purpose?
I said Vin. He did say. Rewind the tape. I said Vin.
Good old Vincent Gasoline, my third favorite actor.
Yeah. He changed his name to Vin Diesel. Can you believe that?
No, I
Cringe.
can't. It's amazing.
Anyway, back
That's
on
our
track here.
yeah.
That's our
Random off
derailment
topic.
of the episode.
Get the train back on the tracks.
There's a lot of trains in this movie.
There
There
are.
is.
Yeah, actually, speaking of that,
I thought they were gonna like come like play into it somehow since they're just like always in the background, but nope, they're just always in the background.
Sometimes they're in the foreground.
Yeah, that's true.
Ash
Sometimes they
Ash
are.
plays with the train in the foreground, like literally on top of Christopherson's head, which
That's true.
was funny. Boy, if Fantastic Mr. Fox is a dick, what is Ash?
He's a troubled youngster. We'll call him.
Yeah,
Okay.
Because I
he
think that
definitely gets.
I mean, if you want to say a character with some character growth, I mean, I think Ash does change throughout the movie. He cares less about himself and more about Christopherson as he goes through. Because obviously, it's another thing. It's like it's circumstance where Ash got Christopherson captured, so he has to go save him. That's kind of where the growth kick starts. But compared to Mr. Fox's growth, I feel like Ash went through maybe a little bit more growth than him.
There's another reading of it that now in this case I think I agree with you more than what I'm about to say, but I'm about to say it anyway because that's the kind of person I am. Where technically speaking, Ash, like at the beginning of the movie, wants his father's approval, but not really, isn't willing to do certain things to get it. And then at the end of the movie, he still wants his father's approval, but isn't willing to do certain things to get it. Like the only reason that he goes to save Christopherson was it was his fault that Christopherson got caught, but he always wanted to go on a heist. Throughout the entire movie, he wanted to go on a heist. And when his dad wouldn't let him, he set up his own heist. And when that went bad, he got to go on a heist with his dad. That's not necessarily growth per se. That's just
he wasn't invited along on the heist though. He kind of just showed up, and Mr. Fox was like, "All right, I guess you're with us," So it's not like Mr. Fox chose him to come on the adventure because he felt Ash was capable. Ash just kind of came along because he felt bad for getting Christopherson captured, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And by the end of it, Ash is like, he's grown as a character enough that he's okay with Christopherson, and he's okay with being weird, being different. That's I think the main crux of his character is, he goes from not really accepting who he is, like he wants to be an athlete, he wants to be this, he wants to be that, but in actuality, he's just he's different. He's kind of weird. He's kind of like he's kind of like a planner, just like his father in that way. But he was trying to be something else. He had so many expectations, and maybe only in his own mind. Obviously, during the ball game, they kind of planted that into his head even more. But he has all these expectations of like, I need to be an athlete. I need to be swift. I need to be like my dad.
Well, but the thing is that he thinks he is an athlete. That's the he doesn't want to be one. He believes that he is one, and so that's why I'm like, that doesn't quite change in terms of, but he does
well, he doesn't want to be an athlete by the end of the movie. He wants to be he's wearing his burglar mask and stuff like that. He obviously wants to be some sort of conniving planner. Maybe not conniving, but yeah. Maybe it's not clear what he wants to be, but I don't think he wants to be an athlete anymore. He's not showing that he wants to play sports anymore. I guess I don't know where you would do it in the sewers, but
that's true. They are way worse off at the end of the movie than they were at the start.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that one. Yeah, I don't think the sewers are really. I mean, obviously, there's not they even say in the movie oh, there's nothing down there but garbage, and there's not a lot of that.
Yeah.
So they definitely aren't well off, even though apparently people want to move in. Christopherson's dad wants to move in.
Yeah.
I
do
think
wants to be close to his sister.
Yep.
Right, but he could also like have his son come to him, if they live in the forest.
Yep.
I don't know. The
The
buy-in's
other
good, I
side.
guess. Maybe it's
Yeah.
affordable housing. I don't know.
Well, that is one of the things about the movies is that I do really enjoy that hit me a lot was the really clear connections between individual action and community repercussions, whether that's like good or bad. So the sewer was not good when they went into it, but it is clear by the end of the movie that they are turning the sewer into a place that's good. In the same way that the tree was in a really nice like neighborhood for animals at the start of the movie, and then Fox's disregard for the consequences of his actions turned it into, well, a hole in the ground. Although Bogus Bunsen Bean turned it into a hole in the ground. Let's be clear.
I do like, or I don't know how I feel of the ending. So they're just like, oh, look, we found this grocery store. It's amazing. It's like, yeah, this is just going to cause all new repercussions.
Yeah, I kind of saw that coming.
Yeah. Especially since it's still owned by Bunsen Beans and other
Bogus
guy.
Bunsen Bean.
Bogus.
One fat, one short, one lean. These horrible crooks, so different in looks, were nonetheless equally mean.
Ah. I couldn't understand the words when it was being sung.
Don't you normally watch the movies with the subtitles, Tay?
I normally do, but we did not watch them with subtitles this time because we are at our
man.
friend's house watching them.
The one time you needed subtitles, you didn't.
I know. I meant that I thought about that as we were watching it. I was like, God, I wish I had subtitles on right now.
We were watching it on Amazon. You could have asked. It was.
I could have, but it was too late. I mean, the movie was almost over at that point, so I was like, yeah, whatever, it's fine.
Yep, that song is directly from the books, by the way, which is hilarious. Yeah. It does kind of bring up the. There is one other thing. I'm just going to throw this out there. You may want to cut this out. I have no idea.
I doubt it.
Okay, well, there is a way of reading this movie as a race allegory, and it is awkwardly done and not tremendously. It's not very good. It's very clearly like a white dude grappling with privilege kind of thing, but it's kind of explicitly stated in the house buying scene, in the tree buying scene. Mr. Fox, don't buy this tree. This neighborhood is very dangerous for people of your. And then if you put the word race in there instead of species, like that's kind of where that conversation goes. But when viewed in that light, Mr. Fox is a black guy moving into a white neighborhood, robbing all of the white neighbors, and then getting a lynch mob set on him. And that's not. I don't think that is like a very a direct line, or it's not necessarily the reading that you would get without overthinking it, but it is a reading that's there, and I think that it's important to like actually mention and look at so that some of the outlying context of the movie can be like brought into the conversation a little bit. I don't know. What do you folks think? Is that something that you saw at all?
Yeah, that didn't even cross my mind, honestly. When I heard him say that, I was just thinking like, okay, there's the farms near the property that are tempting for foxes to go and kill the birds and animals and stuff in there and take the food. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, it crossed my mind a little bit, but it was more just, okay, these are animals. We had this conversation a little bit after the movie.
I didn't know if I should bring it up, honestly, and that's why I was like, but I do think that the reading is there, and I don't even think that it's a difficult reading to pick up on. I like if you look at some of the criticism for the movie, not like people who are critical of the movie, but like the criticism surrounding the movie, and particularly some of the criticism around Wes Anderson as a director, you will find some people who do not feel that he's tremendously good at writing race into his movies, and he's also not very good at writing women into his movies, which I think are both fair criticisms. And this movie, it might be a bit of a stretch to tie those things into it, but I didn't want to like go through the entire podcast without like at least throwing that out there just to see what other folks thought. I don't know.
It's an important thing to bring up, obviously. You know, I just, I just it didn't even cross my mind. So it is good that you're bringing it up because you kind of see it in a different way. It's not going to change my opinion on the movie because I don't know if it was intentional for that. I mean, it's hard to say honestly.
I would say that I argued with Tay about this a little bit, but I would say that it's very obviously intentional, particularly in the moments when he's buying the tree. There are one or two other moments. The newscaster as well is covering the thing in a specific way, and then some sort of like more tenuous connections that have to do with the Petey's jazz, the lyrics of Petey's song that are like. All that being said, I don't think that it was the underlying point of the movie. I don't think it was the like fundamental issue that was at stake. I do think though that it was there, and it was just interesting to see that kind of thing. Let me put it this way. There's a moment when Bean rips the trailer apart, and it is very funny. It is one of my very favorite scenes. Where Bean gets furious that he's not able to catch Mr. Fox and rips the trailer apart. And Brer Wolf being unable to catch Brer Fox and getting furious and destroying things is a staple of certain like Southern fables, and I really, really liked that connection. Does that make sense? Again, this might get cut out.
I don't know.
No,
cut it out.
nothing's
Don't
gonna
worry about
cut
that.
out. Yeah.
Like I said, I think it's an important statement to make. Honestly.
Yeah. Overall, yeah, it's there. I don't again. Yeah, I agree. It's not like the main focus. As we kind of talked about after the movie, Wes Anderson, doesn't do necessarily great in that area. Because I mean, how many ladies were in Grand Budapest?
One, two. I mean, there was a fair amount
There-
of women in that
yeah,
movie.
That actually affected the plot.
Well,
Not just in the background.
And when you compare the number of women to the number of men, the number gets a lot worse.
Yeah.
Like in Fantastic Mr. Fox as well, there's I think we listed them. There's Felicity. There's what's Ash's or Christopherson's girlfriend's name? Shoot.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember now, but yeah, she's there.
And there's Agnes, Bean's wife. Agnes Bean, and that's about. Well, there's the rabbit as well, but we talked about how that she doesn't even have a name. She's a doctor, but she doesn't have a name, and it's like, okay, well, it's a story about men and fatherhood. And by the way, we're the best people to talk about this, aren't we? We're just nailing it here.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, it's not just a Wes Anderson problem, though. It's just a movie problem in a lot of regard. Look at Star Wars. There's 2 women in the first trilogy.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, that's it. I still like the movie, so
Yeah, absolutely.
let's do ratings.
Yeah. Any other talking points we want to talk about?
I mean, we covered a
Topos
lot.
could go on forever.
Yeah, I hear the paper shuffling over there.
Yeah.
Turning the page. Next chapter 2.
I took notes. Yeah, I think that ratings would be good. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff, and I think that there is a lot more to talk about, but we only got an hour, right? Like,
It could go for as long as we need, honestly.
Yeah.
The fact that they end roughly in about an hour is like just a miracle.
Yeah.
We don't
I
plan
saw
that
the
out.
runtime for this. I was like, really? Considering
Yeah.
the Grand Budapest was what, a 2-hour movie about?
Well, it's a stop motion movie. I mean, stop
Yeah,
motion or just
I
animated
guess.
movies are usually shorter, anyways.
Yeah,
And
that's fair
Tay
point.
and I talked about this, and I'm you know what? I am curious about your takes on this. This movie feels way longer than it is.
Yes.
I didn't.
Did not
I didn't
feel that.
feel that at
No,
all.
no,
Honestly,
not at all.
it zoomed by for me.
Huh.
See, I was enjoying it, but like I knew the runtime was lower, and so I just remember a few points going, well, we got to be close to the end, right? I mean, it feels like it's been like at least an hour and a half already, and like not in like a bad way, not like I wasn't enjoying the movie. It just it felt longer like than an hour and a half.
Well,
Maybe
to
it's
me,
just because the plot points happen so quickly. You feel like the
Yeah.
movie should be longer, but
Yeah.
I
well,
think the only time I felt like a runtime, at least, was like it was after one of the parts after they stopped digging, and I was just like, okay, then after that, you get right back
the
into the
5-minute
action.
scene where they're underground and they're just
Yeah.
talking. I
Yeah.
figured you would find that boring.
See, I liked all of it. I didn't find any part boring. It just since it was going so fast, like I guess I was just thinking
But it was
in
so
my head,
quick.
like,
It was like nothing is. It didn't affect my rating
Yeah.
or anything. So
there were like
Yeah.
3 climaxes, and I think that's what did it for me. Was that there's like
maybe.
3 different parts of the movie where you're like, oh, okay, so now they're wrapping up, and then it's like, oh no, Christopherson just got captured, so now they have to rescue him. It's like, okay, so they rescued Christopherson, now the movie's wrapping up, and there's like, oh, and now there's a supermarket scene, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Well, let me ask you this: how was the book structured? Did it have was it just like a bunch of different adventures, or was it like one consistent story?
The book is absolutely a bunch of different adventures. It is structured very much that way. Again,
So-
kind of a Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox, Brer Bear situation where it's more a series of anecdotes put together than. Although there is very clearly an underlying thread. One event does happen after another, particularly tracked by the tail, which is fun. I wanted to ask you guys about the tail, but anyway, what were you gonna say, Yemmy?
Well, I feel like what you just described is how I feel like the movie is. It feels like there is that one underlying story, but there's a bunch of you get a climax and then the next chapter starts.
That's one of the things about why I think that this movie is not your typical Wes Anderson or even like your typical movie kind of movie, because it's not a narrative that's built into a 2-hour structure where it has first act, second act, third act. It's very much, several anecdotes about this peculiar, fascinating person.
And you can also get that from the different title cards that happen as well, where
That's what they're called, title cards.
it kind of shows like, okay, so we're kind of getting into a new chapter in the book or in the movie in this case. That's how I found it. Like, yeah, there are some swelling action points and some climaxes, but then they show the title card and I go, oh, that was the end of that chapter. We're moving into this chapter.
Yeah.
I know when my action points start to swell, a climax is going to happen soon after. That's for damn sure.
That might be a little too graphic.
We'll have to cut that one out. No, I'm kidding.
You said I could say fuck.
Yeah. Fuck's
I mean,
fine.
we talked about Scooby-Doo porno, so you're good.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Did we? Was I there for that one?
Yeah, you were there.
you were all about it, Tay.
Wait,
we
wasn't
were
it?
we were
wasn't it
joking. Tay was the one who brought up. He's like, well, if we can recommend this, we could recommend a porno. And I'm like, well, the Scooby-Doo porno is like an hour or so long.
That's right. I do remember it now.
Nice. What did you guys think of the tail? What did the tail represent? Because I feel like it represented something, but I could never quite put my hand on it.
What do you mean?
Like, was it
Like as a metaphor or
Yeah, because it felt so metaphorical in certain places where he's like, I'm going to get my tail back. You know what? Actually, you guys can keep the tail. But then he does get the tail back. Or Or like Ash being like, I'm gonna get my dad's tail back, and then like, was it just an object or was there something more there? Because it felt like there was, but I couldn't quite get it.
Yeah, it's not like he
was
lost
it
any pride or anything like that when his tail was
Yeah.
blown off.
was
He-
it a
Yeah.
was it a penis metaphor?
That makes the Ash wanting to get it back much creepier, and I'd really rather it was.
There goes Stay again.
Uh,
Yeah,
I think
it
is like a
flip flop on it a couple times.
Yeah, I think it is maybe a pride metaphor where he's just like, you're fucked. You got to have a tail.
yeah.
Yeah, but if it was that, then he would have been more distraught. I feel like after it
Yeah.
initially got blown off, he was very
Yeah,
nonchalant, accepting
no,
of his
it's
of his
true.
predicament.
Maybe he was accepting of his predicament at that time because he had spent so long not feeling whole. And it was only after like he was really getting into the spirit of the heist and stuff that he genuinely wanted his tail back, when he wanted to be able to feel whole once again. And when he does finally get his tail back, it's not the same tail and it's detachable, but like he feels more complete than he did before. I don't know. This is what I'm saying, is that I didn't. Anyway, what does that sound? Does that sound good? Is that nice? Is that
No, that's
Clever.
not.
That's fine.
That's a thing. Yeah, that's that.
It's a thing.
all right?
No, because at the end of the movie, he obviously is glad that he has his tail back, and he makes the joke about being detachable. So maybe it is like some sort of metaphor for he has to swallow his pride and whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's hard to pinpoint what the tail is supposed to be.
But it's so
Maybe
clearly
it's-
supposed to be something.
Maybe it's just supposed to be a tail.
Maybe.
I mean, the only thing I could think of is like him, just being like, the father, like I don't even know how to word it, like a leader, I guess, just like, oh, I could have my tail to be like a leader kind of thing, but I don't think
Yeah,
that.
but he was just a fine leader without his tail, as he was with a tail too.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like it doesn't
Yeah.
seem like it was
Hmm.
that kind of thing, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I do. I like that a little bit, Mr. Waffles. Yeah, greedy.
Badger waffles.
Badger Waffles. Yeah. It does. I think that it does work in the sense that maybe he didn't feel as much of a leader without the tail.
Yeah.
perhaps.
So I don't know, but you never know.
Yeah.
Let's call up Wes Anderson right now and ask him.
I hope someday that we can bring on
Wes Anderson.
directors or writers, or especially Wes Anderson.
We're
I'll
very
get right
sorry
on
for
it.
calling you
Yeah,
Wes
no.
Anderson. How about this? Leave it in the comments. What was Mr. Fox's tail? There we go.
Yeah.
I'm a guest and I'm doing a call to action. We're good. There was a moment that I don't know. We touched on Wes Anderson's women a little bit ago. There was a moment where Felicity scratched Mr. Fox, and I wanted to put that up against the moments when Mr. Fox and Badger were like being wild animals at each other, because like her outburst and anger was very cool and very measured and very direct, whereas theirs was this kind of like nothing came of it.
Feral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost.
Well, I think
performance-like.
it was just like a point of emphasis that Mr. Fox is kind of messing up, and that he's kind of losing the family, I guess, a little bit. I don't know, but I do agree with you that it just didn't seem like it had much of effect that he wanted it to imply, I guess.
Yeah, the scratch stays on Fox for the entire rest of the movie, but not like, I don't know. Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, we have any other points? Are we good?
Stop asking Topos.
Nah.
He'll find more. Just, let's
Hang
go
on,
to the
real
rating.
quick.
All right, we'll go to rating. All right.
Yeah, let's do it.
Remind me, do we start with me, or are we going to start with our guest?
No, we
Let's
start
start-
with you.
Well, let's start with the guest
Oh.
and then go to the greedy.
Okay, that works.
It's a little pointless because this is one of my all-time favorite movies, and it might not sound like it from the way I've been talking about it, but the reason
Tay
why,
warned us about this. Don't worry.
Yeah.
yeah, and it does say something about me that this is absolutely a 5 out of 5 for me. But the thing is that like with all of its flaws and with all of the issues with it, it's not really like anything else I've ever seen, and for whatever reason, it makes me feel. And I can't even like put an emotion after that, but it does absolutely make me feel. And that's something I value. That's something that a piece of art should do, and I really like that this piece of art does that. So yeah, 5 out of 5 is my hat in the ring, and I hope that that's not too far outside of everybody else's rating.
Yeah, I just want to mention, like, when I was talking about being emotional earlier in the podcast, like, that's kind of exactly how you kind of put it into words exactly how I feel. Like, I didn't know what emotion exactly I was feeling, but I felt something. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And if you
Yeah.
could put it into words, then you would just put it into the words, and then what's the point of the movie? So the movie. Anyway, I'm sorry. That's yeah.
Yeah. He said it great, and I agree. Yeah, like you did feel emotions in this movie, and like you couldn't explain it, but you still had fun with the movie. It was still a funny movie. It was serious at times, and it was emotional, and it was heartfelt, and but it was still fun. And we said before, this is different from a Wes Anderson movie. It seems like, and it was really well done, and same with the Grand Budapest Hotel. Attention to detail was great. Everything was spotless. Everything was polished correctly. I guess you can say, and acting was great. He always has a good casting crew. They all did very phenomenal. They all did great. Yeah, and I'm also going to give it 5 out of 5.
Well. All right. For me, yeah, it was a great adaptation of a book I've never read. The voice acting was great. The animation itself was great. It's just fun to watch. Like I said, just the fact that like there was so much texture. Like you just felt every time they were, what we talked about before, where just even holding still, things were moving, and that's part of the stop motion. Um, I liked the whole overall story. Mr. Fox is kind of a dick, but he means well, I guess, for Fox. Um, yeah. Trying to think what I'd give it. I'll round up, and I'll also give it a 5 out of 5.
All right. Um, Callus did not give us his rating or thoughts, so we'll get
Oh,
those
Next
next time.
episode.
So we'll see how he feels about it. But for me, for lack of a better term or lack of a better word, the movie is fantastic. Um, I felt strongly about it throughout the entire time watching it. I went through the whole roundabout of emotion, I guess. Really loved the animation style. I really thought that the acting and stuff was on point, as you guys have already said. The use of color in the movie is once again really well done. Things pop in the environment, whether it be in the background or the foreground. Wes Anderson knows what he's doing with those types of things. And this, something that wasn't mentioned earlier was, the cinematography is also really well done. It feels like a Wes Anderson movie without it actually being like live action and being like a like I said before, if you blind like not blindfold, if you never told me that this was a Wes Anderson movie, I definitely would be like, oh, it's Wes Anderson vibes. So I obviously there's one other stop motion movie in his repertoire, which is Isle of Dogs, and this is definitely better than that. And I give it a 5 out of 5.
all right, 5s across the board.
Except for
Two
Callus.
5s in a row. Yeah,
Yeah,
Callus maybe makes
we'll
screw
see
it
what
up.
Cal
Be like,
says. Might be the Hobbit thing where remember when Coco came in and gave it a 1.5 out of 5, and everyone else was
yeah, it
like
was good,
4,
good.
4.5, 5.
Well, there is a bit of a sampling bias here, which need go unmentioned. But I do think that this kind of movie is sort of designed for people like us in a way. that look, I don't know you guys, but I got some daddy issues, and this was a movie about daddy issues, so did,
So
that was
So
just
yeah,
I thought you were gonna
yeah,
go
I
on.
thought you were gonna go
oh,
on.
okay.
So
That was a long awkward silence. It was a leading so. I mean, I was trying to provide a funny explanation. This is a great place for. Thanks everybody for listening.
No, I think that movies like this can speak differently to everyone who watches it. It's a very, I mean, a lot of movies are very personal movies. And if you can take out something different from the movie than someone else, I mean, that's just what makes us human beings, you know.
That's true. That's true. And
very
I do think that that's part of what makes it this a good movie was the amount of different things that you could take out of it. So
Yeah,
like
for
just the
for
fact
a
that
movie about anthropomorphic animals, you can definitely take a lot of human stuff out of this movie, you know.
yeah, the fact that you and I and Greedy and Tay all had like slightly different readings and sometimes drastically different readings, and yet we all think that it was a good movie. That's not something that's easy or common, and that's really cool.
absolutely.
It's hard to reproduce, but once again, I mean, last episode we all gave Grand Budapest a 5, so I guess with Wes Anderson, it's easily reproduced.
He's a
Speaking
good
of which,
director. Yeah.
Tay, you got a
Yeah.
recommendation for next episode, I hear.
Oh, sure, I do. Hold on, give me a sec. I have it, but I don't have it pulled up to give
He
all
wasn't
the
expecting that
details.
smooth of a transition.
Yeah.
I
Is it
understand.
that one? Is it that one with Bill Murray and Owen Wilson?
Yes, it is.
Is George Clooney in it?
I don't think so.
Is it about an
What?
upbeat character who's disenfranchised with life?
Yeah.
Does it deal with
It is.
ennui?
Yes.
All right,
I think
Tay,
I know
Tay.
what movie you're talking about. It is.
It is The Life Aquatic with
I knew
Steve Zissou.
Yeah, figured.
It was the one on my list because I saw this one like in high school or just after high school. And I remember enjoying it, but I don't remember much about it. So I figured it'd be a good time to review it. Obviously, director is Wes Anderson. It was written by Wes Anderson and Noah Baumbach. Stars Bill Murray, Owen Wilson, Angelica Houston, Willem Dafoe, Jeff Goldblum, Michael Gambon, Noah Taylor, Bud Cor. Okay, now we're getting into names where no one will actually know who these people are. So, and Kate Blanchett as well. So yeah, it is. Let me go back to the synopsis. With a plan to exact revenge on a mythical shark that killed his partner, oceanographer Steve Zissou, played by Bill Murray, rallies a crew that includes his estranged wife, a journalist, and a man who may or may not be his son.
All right, well, another Wes Anderson movie. I mean, I like the last two, so I'm sure I'm gonna like this one. So I'm excited.
Yeah, no, like I said, I do remember this one was great. One of my favorite lines the only thing I remember is "This is my son. This is probably my son, Ned."
As I
Alright.
mentioned,
Yeah.
as I mentioned last time, this is the one Wes Anderson movie that I haven't seen, so it'll be
Oh,
good to
really?
round out this one. If you want to watch it yourself, it is not available on Amazon unless you want to buy the disc, but it is available, I believe, on Hulu, YouTube, and other normal like renting sites. But it's not on
The Pirate Bay.
Pirate Bay.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. But if you want to get, YouTube, it seems like YouTube renting is going to be your best shot unless you have Hulu with subs or
Okay.
Hulu, a subscription
Out
to
of-
Hulu. What am I saying?
Out of curiosity, Tay, what made you go for this one instead of like the Royal Tenenbaums or Moonrise Kingdom or Darjeeling Unlimited? Was Life Aquatic?
Well, like I said, there's one I saw because I haven't seen too many Wes Anderson movies, so this is one
Okay.
I've seen before, and I remember liking it, and it was on my list already of movies to pick eventually. So I figured, well, if we're doing Wes Anderson, might as well get to my pick.
That makes sense. That tracks.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much to Topos for coming onto the podcast today. Is there
They're
anything that you
very-
want to like plug or mention before we end the show?
Tay and I stream. I wanted to thank you for having me on. I'm going to have to listen back to this because I strongly suspect that I did what I promised myself I wouldn't do, which was talk too much. But then again, it is a podcast, so um, yeah. Thank you very much for having me. I'll plug Film Freaks with a Z. Subscribe to us on subscribe to them. It's not on us. I'm only a guest. um, on iTunes and catch them on YouTube. Leave a comment down below if you feel like you've got an answer for what exactly Mr. Fox's tale was, or if you just like the movie. There's going to be an audience pick next week from or next podcast from what I hear. And again, thank you very much for having me on.
It
Is
was a
there a
pleasure.
movie? Yeah. Oh, good.
What was that?
Is there a movie that you would like us to throw in there?
Oh man, now see that's a question.
You
know
don't have
what
to
it
say
is.
now. You can.
You want Fifth Element?
Well, so I would say Fifth Element, except the thing is that I kind of want to make y'all watch Everything Everywhere All at Once because Tay hasn't
that's
seen
also
it yet.
on my list. That is on my list to watch.
Yeah.
So
So throw that on there. Everything Everywhere All at Once is really good.
I appreciate it because that is what I was going to originally pick this week, but then we started the Wes Anderson stuff, so I was like, all right, Wes Anderson's fine.
Yeah.
Well, you'll be happy to know I have seen the movie, and I did give it a 5 out of 5 when I watched it. So,
oh man,
Nice.
it made me cry. It made me cry a lot. So did Fantastic Mr. Fox, but Everything Everywhere All at Once made me cry.
It was
kind of
hard to watch Mr. Fox with him because he was just bawling over on the couch.
Tay, you
The
didn't
whole
hug him
time.
like a good friend.
I was on a different couch. I couldn't reach him.
I was very wet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
someone clip that out of context, please.
Tay and I stream once a week at Taymation Studios, twitch.tv/Taymation Studios. Feel free to stop by if you enjoyed. I guess I needed to actually complete that plug. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah, you've said everything that I need to say. So really, all that's left to be done is to just end the podcast.
I stole your wrap up. Ha 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 ha.
But
Well,
I
you didn't
do have the
steal
last
Dave's
laugh
line.
because I get to say I'm Fantastic Mr. Ferret, and I've been here with.
Badger waffles.
I don't remember what I said, Taymation.
Topos, Bunts, and Bean. One fat,
this-
one short, one lean.
And this has been Film Freaks with a Z. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Be sure to clean your ass.
Yeah, don't
Bye.
forget to clean your ass.